Welcome back to Latin. We're ready for Wheelock chapter 4. So I'm on page 32. And at the start here, let's note what you will need to study this week after this lesson. It's the normal stuff, all the vocabulary for the lesson, which is on pages 35 to 36. We'll go over that at the end of this lesson. The forms for the second declension nouns and adjectives, which are on page 32. And the forms for the present indicative active of the verb sum, which is on page 34. And again, we're going to go through all that, obviously. But right at the start, that's what you need to study this week. And there's a fourth item, all previous lessons and flashcards. So Latin, continues to build. So you need to remember, you need to review and remember what you've already been quizzed on. Because as we go on building quizzes week by week, questions from previous quizzes are always a possibility of showing up on Friday's quiz. So we want to continue to build our knowledge, not forget what has gone before it. All right, so we talked about before that Latin has 3 genders for its nouns: masculine, feminine, and now today, neuter, which just means neither. So masculine, feminine, or neither. And so our forms here on page 32. Here are the forms for the word gift, donum. So we have donum, doni, dono, donum, dono. And then in the plural, dona, donorum, donis, dona, donis. Okay, so the only surprising thing, the only thing that differs from the masculine forms and the neuter forms are in the nominative. It has an ending for the singular instead of an us. And the accusative, well, the masculine already had an ending for the accusative. And so the really surprising ones are this dona in the plural, and neuter and accusative. Those, of course, are going to sometimes trip you up. You'll think that that refers to a feminine word with that a in its ending. But this is why you need to remember when you make your flashcards to make a note of what the gender of that noun is. So that when you see dona, you'll know, oh yeah, that's the word for gift. That's neuter. So this is not a nominative singular feminine word, because I know that donum is a neuter word. I know that when it says dona, I'm in the plural, either the nominative or the accusative. So obviously we need to memorize those endings for this week, but nothing new grammatically. Just a new set of endings for neuter nouns and adjectives, because as you can read through on page 33 now, look at the declension and agreement of adjectives. The paradigm of Magnus presented in chapters 2 through 4 illustrate the point that while the base remains constant, the adjective has masculine, feminine, and neuter endings to match the gender of the noun it modifies, with which it likewise agrees in number and case. Remember that. That is an important fact that will show up on a quiz sometime, that adjectives agree with the nouns they modify in gender, number, and case. Very important rule. They agree with them in gender, number, and case. Not necessarily ending. So here's a good example. Nauta. Nauta, the word for sailor. Nauta is a masculine word, even though it has feminine endings, even though it has it's feminine in its grammar. It's a masculine noun. So to say a good sailor is nauta bonus, because now both of these words are nominative, singular, masculine. Nominative, singular, masculine. What we would expect is something more like, a good gift. So we have donum, bonum. There the endings match up, which is, normal, is what we should expect. Or the word for a good son, filius bonus. We'd expect it to match up. But it happens that they don't match up. You have to remember that nauta is masculine, so it gets masculine endings. So there on page 33, you can see all those endings that you should have memorized. The masculine endings, us, o, etc. The feminine endings, I, and now the neuter endings, o. So make sure those are all memorized for the quiz on Friday. Now on page 34, we have some new verb forms for the verb to be. So here they are. Let's put them all on the same page. They are sum, est, summus, summus, it's short. Summus, estis, sunt. Sum, est, summus, estis, sunt. So these are the verbs to be. So that's I am, you are, he, she, it is, and then in the plural, we are, y'all are, and they are. Sum est, summus est, sunt. So not too terribly difficult to memorize, but they will need to be memorized. So those are the only forms this week. Relatively easy chapter. Just the forms of sum and the present indicative active, and adding these neuter nouns to our repertoire of noun endings. So now take a look with me on, we should say predicate nouns and adjectives. They're on page 34. I'll run through this content. As an intransitive verb, well, let's talk about what that means right away. What does it mean for a verb to be transitive or intransitive? A transitive verb, you can think of it as it transfers some action. So the word kick is a transitive verb. I kick the ball. In Latin, the ball will be in the accusative. It takes an object in the accusative. Intransitive verbs don't transfer any energy, any action. So for example, I am tall. So tall in Latin is not going to be in the accusative. To say that I am tall, that am isn't doing anything to the word tall in the same way that I kick the ball, right, is transferring action. So the intransitive verbs don't take objects. Intransitives don't transfer any action, so they don't have objects in the accusative. Okay, so I am tall. This tall is going to go into the nominative. Nominative case. To match with I, to match with the subject. So that's what's going on here on page 34. So you see his, let's take his second example, or third example. Virgilius est magnus. So on both sides of the verb to be, you end up with nominatives. Virgilius est magnus. Okay? And so down on the bottom, he's got dona sunt magna. The gifts are great. So again, these are neuter nominative plurals on either side of the verb to be. The gifts are great. Okay. And then on the top of page 35, substantive adjectives. You learned about attributive adjectives, vir Romanus and femina bona, Roman man, a good woman, in chapter 2. And predicate adjectives, it's just what we looked at, how the porta est antiqua, the door is old. The Romans also often used an adjective as a substantive, that is in place of a noun, just as we do in English. The meek shall inherit the earth, that is, the meek people. Such adjectives can sometimes be translated as English substantives, but for natural idiom you would often need to supply man or men, woman or women, thing or things, in accordance with the word's number and gender. So, he gives us another example. Here on the top of page 35, bonus saipa laudant. They praise, this is the word for often, they often praise good gals. Accusative plural feminine. They often praise good women. So you don't need to say bonas feminas. You could say they often praise the good women, but you can also just say they often praise the good. And since in English we can't show feminine just by saying good, we're going to have to add the word women. They often praise good women. Okay. Let's do a couple practice translations from this chapter. Let's review our steps for translating. We want to find the verb, parse it, and translate it. Then we want to ask, is there a nominative to serve as the subject? Then we want to ask, is there an accusative to serve as the direct object, right, if that verb is transitive? Now we know a little bit more. So if it's the kind of verb that takes an accusative, this is why it's if, should be. If there's an accusative noun. And then we move through the rest of the words, translating them according to their grammatical form. That is, for nouns, we note their case and we translate it appropriately. So let's work on these translations on page 37. Here is the... let's do the vocabulary first. Read through that quickly. So on page 35, basium, and in the genitive it's basii, and the little n after it tells you it's neuter. You need to make sure that's part of your flashcard, that you note the gender of these nouns. Bellum is war, neuter obviously. Concilium is a plan. Cura, care. Attention, caution, anxiety. Care is a good translation. Donum we've been using, it's a gift or a present. Exitium is destruction or ruin. Magister, and then the feminine magistra is a teacher, schoolmaster. Mora means delay. Notice that it is feminine. I'm on the top of page 36 now. Mora, delay, feminine. Nihil, it's nothing. Notice it's indeclinable. That means it'll always be nihil. It'll never have any endings, no matter how it's used. Oculus, it's masculine for eye. Officium, it's neuter, means duty or service. Otium is leisure. Periculum, danger. Remedium, cure or remedy, obviously. Bellus, bella, bellum. So that's an adjective. That's how adjectives will be listed, with their 3 endings. Means pretty, handsome, charming, beautiful. And don't confuse it with bellum, meaning war. So that can be confusing sometimes in the neuter. Bonus, bona, bonum, another adjective with 3 endings, meaning good or kind. Humanus, humana, humanum, pertaining to man, human, humane, kind, refined. Malus, mala, malum is wicked or bad. Parvis, parva, parvum is small. Stultus, stulta, stultum is foolish. So a stultus is a fool. Veris, vera, verum, true or real. Eua, euare, eui, eutum. So there's a verb, clearly of the first conjugation, to help assist or aid. Sum esse fui futurum, to be, to exist, which we just learned. All right. Now let's work on these translations on page 37. Bella sunt mala et multa pericula habent. Now, so our first step is to find the verb. So what I notice is that this sentence actually has 2 verbs. We're working with 2 clauses. How do I know these words are verbs? Because I've memorized sum ss, sumus esse sunt, and I've memorized my endings, so I know that an ent ending is a verb. So we'll take half of the sentence first. So we'll take this part first. So I'm going to parse sunt. That's present, indicative, active, third, plural, meaning they are. Is there a nominative? For my second step, there sure is. Bella. And in fact, I remember that when I have a verb of being, the verb to be, they are, I'm going to have nominatives on both sides, and I do. So these are neuter plural nominatives. Wars are bad. Okay? And now I find my verb over here is habent. Need to parse that verb. Habent, that's also present indicative active. It's also third plural. Okay? Meaning they have. So I can add that to my translation. Wars are bad and they have. Now I should look again to see if there's a new nominative on this side of the word and to be the subject of habent. And there might be, right? Multa pericula. That's neuter nominative plural. It could be. So this could be wars are bad and many dangers. Periculum is danger. And many dangers have. No. I remember in the neuter, the nominative and the accusative have the same ending. So we saw that up here. The nominative and the accusative, plural, have the same ending, right? Ah. So back down here, we're finding that so wars are bad and they have many dangers is our appropriate translation. So multa pericula is accusative. It's the object of have. It's the thing that the wars have. Wars are bad and they have many dangers. Okay. Let's do this next one. Number 3, find our verb. Wokat. I recognize that as a verb ending. So I want to parse wokat. Present, indicative, active, third singular. Translate it. He, she, or it calls. Okay, now is there a nominative to go with it? Which one of these words is nominative? Not odio, for sure. Not hodie. Now Tom. That's an accusative ending. Officium. That can be an accusative ending if it's masculine or neuter, but it's the nominative ending for neuter. So this is the only word in the sentence that can be nominative. So I put that together. Duty calls. Is there an accusative to serve as the object? Yes. Nautam. Duty calls the sailor. Now I'm going to go through the rest of the words in order, translating them according to their case and usage. De otio. I remember that de means of or from, and it's always, the noun that it's governing always has to be in the ablative, as it certainly is there. And if I had to look up otium, because that's a new word, I'd find out it means leisure. So duty calls the sailor from leisure. How do you spell leisure? Must be that way. From leisure to day. The word hodie just means today. So in English, we'd probably put that today on the front, wouldn't we? Make this a little better English. Today, duty calls the sailor from leisure. And maybe in English, we'd even say away from leisure, which would be fine. So there is lesson 4. You see the things to study. There again, reminder of what needs to be studied this week and will appear on the quiz on Friday. Have a nice week.